That we unfortunately don't get the opportunity to stop and take the time to recognize important events and milestones in unit history and military lineage often enough. Today's event is meant to do exactly that as we celebrate the service of a critical piece of recently retired military equipment, and more importantly, recognize the contribution and service of a fallen comrade, as well as the sacrifice made by one of our beloved Army families. Thanks to all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to memorialize and dedicate this static display. This event serves as an opportunity to be true stewards of our esteemed profession and further binds our community, including those with ties to this unit, this tremendous aircraft, and specifically to our fallen trooper and our Gold Star family. I would like to specifically identify a few folks who played a major role in making this day happen. Master Sergeant Hardwork and Captain Jared Bailey. Thank you for your steadfast loyalty to the OH-58D and 317, as well as your willingness to ensure the readiness of this impressive static display. I'd like to a round of applause for them at this time, please. For curiosity's sake, how many folks either piloted, maintained, or supported the OH-58D in their career? If you could show hands. All right. It's quite a few, if you couldn't see, huddled up, trying to stay warm together as we all are. But this is a passionate population. They're saddened, frankly, and they feel scorned because this aircraft's no longer in inventory. The rest of us owe an immense amount of gratitude to this aircraft and those who employed it for all it's done since it entered service in 1985. Almost 35 years and almost 1 million combat hours are truly impressive statistics that if it weren't for the Army's financial requirement to execute the Aviation Restructure Initiative, this lethal and effective scout platform would still be flying and protecting soldiers on the ground to this day. Mrs. Katie Groves was first confused and surprised by why an Apache guy wanted this day to happen so badly. The truth is that although I love my gunship and those that employ it, I have an immense amount of respect for the Kiowa, its mission, and the men and women who operate and maintain it. This OH-58 is flanked by two other stalwarts of history in Army aviation. And like the OH-58, the Cobra and the Huey fundamentally changed ground combat from the Vietnam era to today. These fantastic aircraft and the static displays on this field were similarly and previously dedicated to fallen comrades who piloted them in service to our nation. To my right, CW3 Randall B. Potter is memorialized with a stone placed next to the UH-1 Huey. CW3 Potter and 4 others were killed while conducting a supply run in Honduras in December of 1988. To my left, the H-1 Cobra was memorialized to 2 Apache pilots I had the pleasure to lead as a platoon leader in 1-3 attack prior to OF-1, and who unfortunately lost their lives in a training accident here at Fort Stewart on 22nd June 2004. CW2 Nick DeBona and W01 Bill Walker were great Americans who lost their lives serving the country they loved, and who, like Randy Potter, will not be forgotten. Today, our squadron's screen line is complete as we unveil this Kiowa Warrior static display and dedicate it to CW3 James Groves. At this time, I would like to provide a special recognition and round of applause to our Gold Star family in attendance. The Burrows family, and specifically Katie, were kind enough to help in the planning and organization of today's event, and it's to her and her family that we are primarily gathered today. 3 days from now, she will be in what I argue is the most beautiful and solemn fiddler's green in the entire world, Arlington National Cemetery, commemorating the 4th anniversary of her husband's tragic passing. When asked if she would like anyone specifically to speak at today's ceremony, Katie asked if I'd reach out to a previous Light Horse 6 Squadron commander, now 4 commanders removed, who served with and knew James very well, Colonel Tom von Eschenbach, who could not attend today's ceremony because he's currently engaged in AUSA's Winter Symposium with General Gaylor. So Katie, you got stuck with me instead. Colonel von Eschenbach asked that I read the following during the conduct of today's ceremony. Katie, Bubba, Shane, distinguished guests and troopers of Light Horse, I sincerely apologize for not being able to be there in person, but I am sure James is, am with you in spirit. Much like anything James did, I'm confident today's event is top-notch and to the standard James was an outstanding husband, father, son, brother, officer, and friend who was very deserving of the honor bestowed today. He was one of the Army's brightest stars. He embodied the determination and can-do attitude of a cavalryman and was a leader who possessed the rare combination of being well-respected and well-liked. He led from the front in everything he did, and he never let an obstacle or difficult task prevent him from accomplishing the mission. James embodied an ethos that was put into words by Sergeant Major Lemke. The amount of blood, sweat, tears, and energy put into any light horse mission would not fit into an earthly container. The heart of an American trooper is the only thing big enough. I'm honored to be part of the whole, for the whole will risk all for the part. It was troopers like James that made and make Light Horse great organization ever assembled. In the days and years after James' death, I've struggled in search for answers, and I'm resigned I'll never know the answer, nor make any sense of it. But James would tell us, stop kicking rocks, because we can't change the past, and we can just shape the future. 317 has gained and maintained contact with the enemy in many different theaters. Most recently, our Sea Troop returned from a third consecutive rotation in Afghanistan, and our Gray Eagle Company is maintaining positive ID over there as we speak, and as we prepare for the squadron's next rotation in the theater and build readiness for whatever the other theater may require our services. Although the Marne Express continues at breakneck speed, today's small pause to reflect and celebrate dedicated services is special and needed. This was a combat-proven aircraft that, when matched with skilled and professional troopers like Mr. Burrows, emboldened by strong and resilient family members, provided lethal and timely, effective fires in support of ground commanders on battlefields across this earth for over 30 years. Thank you again for your attendance today, your support and participation. To speak more eloquently, and certainly from a more informed stance on the 58, I'll be followed by CW4 retired Mark Burrows, who knew James very well and knew how to employ this amazing warfighting machine even better.
Ladies and gentlemen, longtime friend of Chief Warrant Officer 3 James Groves, former 3rd Squadron 17th Cavalry Regiment Senior Warrant Officer and OH-58 Delta Standardization Pilot, Chief Warrant Officer 4 retired, Mark Burrows.
Good morning. I'd like to start by saying a special thank you to Katie, Shane, and Bubba for your friendship, to Nicole, Stephen Ashton, and myself. And most of all, thank you for your ultimate sacrifice. Dinner ready, Lieutenant Colonel Lamb, CB4 Blanche, Command Sergeant Major Coffey, thank you very much for hosting this event and taking the time to honor the passing of our beloved cavalry members. Captain Bailey, these things are never easy to put on, and you've done an outstanding job. Thank you as well. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. This is a quote by President Reagan that stuck with me since I ran across it after our second deployment to Iraq. And of course, he was speaking of us as soldiers and protectors of our freedoms and ways of life, but could it not also apply to the aircraft that we entrust our lives to? They became one with us, part of the team. We adorn them with special markings, talk to them. I talk to the aircraft all the time. You know, you pat the dashboard, we need that little bit extra, you know, a little extra gas, come on, we can get home, or we can do this, let's just go, come on. And then we relive our accomplishments and tell tales for years to come after that we've done with this bond, with this machine. So, and we also, our maintainers, meticulously give them the utmost of care to make sure they always get us home. We keep them upgraded with the latest technologies and ensure their legacies are preserved and passed on to their successors. We often place our aircraft in the same high regard as we do our heroes. We've gathered here today to honor not one but two great Army heroes. Both were well respected by all who knew them. Both made countless sacrifices to ensure the safety of our ground brothers and sisters. Both worked tirelessly day in and out to protect the freedoms we enjoy, and neither ever asked for thanks, gratitude, accolades, or recognition. So James and the Kiowa warrior shared that special bond that comes along every so often between man and machine. Due to his height and large stature, James could have easily chosen another airframe in flight school. He could have been a Black Hawk pilot or something else, but he was a ground surveillance radar technician as an E5. and he knew in his heart that the Kiowa's close support mission is where he belonged. It's actually during his assignment at Fort Carson that he met Katie, and it's, we would joke around sometimes it's ironic that he ended up in the 10th Mountain, since the 10th lineages, as well as theirs, began in Colorado. But we pause today to reflect on the passing of a dear friend in the Indigo era. Please join me also remembering our other 317 Cavalry brothers and sisters who selflessly gave their lives for our country. Just before James's arrival and before our first deployment, we lost Lieutenant Belay due to complications from an illness. His picture still hangs on the wall as you walk in the squadron. Please check it out. During our first Iraq deployment, CW2 Blaze, who was from 217 Cav, and CW2 Hazel Grove and aircraft 950 were lost in an accident caused by bad weather. As a testament to his character, James was requested to escort Brian home to his family in Indiana. A few weeks later, Lieutenant Mooney, CB3 Dorf, and aircraft 957 crashed into Tigris while searching for Iraqi National Guard forces who had capsized their boat. Towards the end of our deployment, Sergeant Wagner was lost when his Humvee struck a landmine while resupplying one of 317's remote communications outposts. Now, our second and third deployments were joyous. We accomplished our mission with honors and brought everyone home. Our last deployment, the second to Afghanistan, will be especially traumatic as we endured two devastating events. The crash of James and Lieutenant Cole on aircraft 086, and another tragic loss where one of our Task Force 317 Black Hawk helicopters went down on a night training mission. That night, we lost Captain Knudsen, CB2 Henderson, Staff Sergeant Blass, Staff Sergeant Cialdo, Special Shannon, and aircraft 270. Let's now go back in time a few years to when James was first assigned to 317 in 2003. At that time, it was a much different unit. We were aligned as a Cold War style unit under the 10th Mountain as light infantry. And we jokingly had a motto that we were too light to fight, but too heavy to run. We just had too much stuff, but not enough ammo. At that time, Alpha Troop was a ground recon scout unit. They drove around in Humvees using light machine guns, small mortars, shoulder launched rockets. And they were kind of a perfect reflection of us flying overhead in the Kiowa. However, when we deployed to Iraq later that year, our ground scouts took us into Afghanistan, so we were augmented with Kiowas from our sister unit, 110 Aviation. These aircraft and aviators following deployment actually ended up being our new Alpha Troop when our ground scouts went elsewhere. For the beginning years of the wars, Kiowas were sent to Iraq instead of Afghanistan due to suspected performance issues. They just didn't think the Kiowas could handle it over there. But 317 crews and maintenance personnel not only helped to dispel these concerns, but proved that Kiowa could excel in the high mountainous environment of Afghanistan. For the next two tours, 317 Kiowas could be seen in areas ranging from the major bases of Bagram, Jalalabad, Kandahar, and Ghazni, even down to the smaller support bases in remote spots such as Salerno, Wolverine, and Don Patan. These deployments saw heavy fighting in many areas, most of the areas. And Kiowas were often on scene providing LZ security for Black Hawks and Chinooks as they delivered supplies or assault forces, conducting route reconnaissance ahead of ground convoys, or directly supporting ground troops who were in contact with the enemy. The 317 Cav, Kiowas, and their crews quickly established a close relationship with any ground unit they supported. James was the same way. He had an uncanny knack for getting people to like him and follow him and look up to him. Just like the Kiowa, he was a commander's dream. James may not have always agreed with the course of action or decision, but he would voice his concerns in private, offer his suggestions and guidance, maybe some help, and then somehow go out, get everyone else to not only follow the order, but to look forward to it. He loved giving hugs, for those of you who remember him. But more than that, he loved embarrassing situations. I'm sure you all have something in the back of your mind right now. But it really didn't matter who was embarrassed. He would often make himself the butt of a joke. It was his way of building teams and easing tensions. And James, like the Kiowa, was always improving himself and everyone around him. As a squadron SP, I cannot tell you how much I lean on James to help keep us on track. The Kiowa and his crews had to constantly evolve in order to keep up with a resourceful and ever-changing enemy. Aircraft technologies such as air-to-air Stinger missiles, which have been gone for a while, cockpit airbags, M3P, 50 cal machine guns, rapid deployment gear, And man-on-man teaming systems have been constantly added, removed, and modified in support of this quest to stay ahead of the enemy. Our crews had to do the same thing in this fluid environment. Binoculars, smoke grenades, flying with doors off, M4 rifles, handheld thermal imaging devices, and long-range digital cameras are just a very few of the innovative ways our crews are made lethal on the battlefield. Some of you guys will remember what a smoke grenade looks like when it goes off in the cockpit. You don't live that one down for quite a while, I'll tell you that. It's often been said that Kiowa crews possess a seemingly irrational manner in which they manage to not only find the worst danger on the battlefield, but embed themselves fully in it. But I will say that in 800,000 combat hours, and despite being eye to eye with the enemy, only a small percentage of aircrew actually lost to enemy fire. It's a testament to the aircraft and the crews. See, the Kiowa is an amazing and resilient aircraft that is able to absorb an extraordinary amount of damage. Despite having only one engine, very light armor and armament, 4 small blades, and slower speed than the other Army aircraft, the Kiowa and its crews consistently delivered superior support to our ground forces. Their support was often specifically requested for by ground force commanders. In Talafar, Iraq, Captain served as Charlie Troop Commander. At the time, the C-2 Fletcher was shot down in aircraft 004. After remaining in place for a bit till help arrived, they were fine. They went back and healed and kept on going. A few months later, CV-2 Bellinger and Lieutenant Fulmer got shot by an anti-tank rocket in Mosul, Iraq that disabled their tail rotor, hydraulics, and all communications. But they were able to limp back to base, do a run on landing, and walk away. And I just saw Sean Redmond is here, so we were jokingly nobody would fly Lieutenant Fulmer because Fulmer had an engine failure issue with Sean, and they had to auto-rotate earlier in the deployment as well. So we used to draw straws on who got to fly with Lieutenant Fulmer. On our movement from Kuwait to Baghdad, during our second deployment, C-3 Keister decided to get the ball rolling by getting shot in the leg on our way north to Baghdad. He was okay, healed for a while, and returned to duty after a few weeks. Later at deployment, C-2 Stewart and Specialist Holguin also experienced an accident in 948 while on a maintenance test flight. The aircraft were destroyed, but they were both able to recover from their injuries. The first Afghanistan tour, we lost one aircraft due to an accident during a gunnery exercise. CV-3 Almirati and CV-2 Peterson both walked away, but they have to be airlifted off the side of a mountain first, but they were okay also. During the second Afghanistan tour, obviously Lieutenant Cole was severely injured during his crash in 086, but he was able to survive and continues his recovery today. Later the same deployment, CV-4 Cruz and CV-2 Amarillo crashed while engaging insurgents who were attacking one of our forward operating bases. Like true Cav troopers, though, they stuck around for a while, continuing to engage the enemy from the ground. But they had to stop once help arrived and broke up the fight. Both sustained only minor injuries, and they got back to duty right away. So one incident in particular with the Kiowa was especially powerful to me. In July of 2007, CW2 Cianfrini and myself were shot down in aircraft 540. We were supporting friendly forces south of Baghdad. Our aircraft took extremely heavy damage. The tail rotor drivetrain was completely severed, no tail rotor. Dashboard was blown out, radios were completely off, and finally the main rotor was hit. I managed to auto-rotate and make a controlled crash near a canal, but just by the way the cockpit was designed, we did not take any rounds personally, luckily. So that aircraft saved our lives. We were able to walk away, not walk away, but evade the enemy, and then we got a ride on the outside of an Apache back to base, which I'll tell you, the inside of Apache is a much better place to ride. So we were all really overworked at that point in the deployment. It was still early on during the surge, but James was the first one to step forward and volunteer to take some of my shifts so I could recover. James was a devoted husband, brother, friend, warrior, teacher, coach, mentor, leader, and patriot. To many, the Kiowa has been a career, a trusty steed, protector, instructor, and inspiration. I'm a better person today for having both of them in my life. As we stop today to reflect on the passing of our friends and loved ones, please don't grieve, but rejoice in the legacies of these great Americans. None of them will want us to be saddened by today's events. I know in my heart right now that James and our other 317 heroes are flying their Kiowas around Fiddler's Green at the gates of heaven, absolutely refusing to go in until all of us have arrived safely. Just don't be surprised as you pass if James smacks you on the butt and gives you a loud and thunderous good game.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, Lieutenant Colonel Lamb, Katie, Shane, and Bubba Groves will now unveil the memorial stone for Chief Warrant Officer 3 James Groves. The placement of this memorial headstone not only commemorates the loss of a trooper, but enables a professional dialogue among soldiers past, present, and future. This dialogue promotes the cavalry legacy and the importance of the mission conducted, while also providing a tangible consequence of the risks we as soldiers take in combat and in training. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Katie Groves.
Good morning and thank you for coming today. We are here for two reasons. First is to honor the legacy of the Kiowa. Second is to remember a kick-ass pilot that was my husband. Around 15 years ago, when James was going through flight school, he told me that he wanted a Kiowa. I was familiar with the other birds, and I had seen a 58 once when I was going through air assault school. I asked him why, since it's the smallest thing out there, and he was 6'3". He liked the mission. Secretly, he probably just wanted to wear a Stetson and join the CAF. Honestly, he was always a protector. Reconnaissance and protecting guys on the ground was his game. In order to do his job effectively, you have to know your bird inside and out, and he did. I never doubted his skills as a pilot. It was a matter of could the Kiowa keep up with him, and it did many times. There were many doubters over the years saying the Kiowa wasn't made for this mission or can't perform at high altitudes. She proved them wrong every time. Time and time again, I would read stories of ground troops thanking God or celebrating because the Kiowa was coming. The Cavalry and Kiowas were made for each other. Kiowa pilots are a special breed. Because they have Cav blood running through their veins, they have a shoot first, ask for forgiveness later mentality. More than likely, though, it was hold my beer and watch this. That was a good thing because anytime someone was in trouble, they were the first to saddle up. The unknown or how dangerous it could be didn't matter. A brother was calling for help. The Kiowa enabled them to be there when the call came in. In the past, when someone that's never met James asked me to describe him, I'm stumped. They are looking for a sentence when in reality we should do lunch because it's going to take a few hours. James knew how to make a first impression. With his height and larger-than-life presence, many new pilots that met him the first time got smacked in the face with reality and shrunk a little with intimidation. I know because they told me. James took his job seriously and wanted them to understand that while being a pilot can be fun, they better know their stuff because what goes up always comes down. Just a matter of if it's controlled or not. He wasn't willing to accept anything less than 100% because he would have blamed himself if he lost any of his pilots. To expect 100%, you have to be 100% yourself. There is a difference between a boss and a leader, and he was a leader. I met James when we were both enlisted. Back then he was tough, but you never saw him lording over his soldiers. He was right in the middle with them. Even after James became a warrant and continued up the ranks, you could still see him getting his hands dirty with the crew chiefs. His philosophy was you take care of all your guys, and they will take care of you, and they did. James wasn't always a tough guy. Once a soldier got past the first week, they would see a funny prankster with a big heart and huge teddy bear hugs. James could handle any serious situation, but he could get away with cracking a joke if the tension got too high. He was honest but tactful. James could tell people they were screwed up in such a nice way, and they wouldn't realize it till he was strolling away. It wasn't that he was mean, it was his way of saying get it together because I'm watching. He truly cared about the job and his guys. James was not always a patient man, especially when his mini-me was a toddler and would push his buttons. But he had all the patience in the world when helping younger pilots. He was a great teacher, but the toughest disciplinarian there was. He had to be because others wouldn't fill those shoes. After he died, someone told me that the commander might be in charge of the company, but nothing happened without James's say-so. That can be taken several ways, but it's a sign of mutual respect between the guy that's been around for 10 years and the new guy. There are many stories I could tell about James over the years, like that time we were just married and stuck out at NTC. He accidentally on purpose broke something just so he could see me for a few days. There was another time he deployed and his laptop died with only a few months left in country. James was so mad he taped a smoke grenade to it, threw it out the door, and shot it up. I think he might have gotten yelled at for that one, but knowing him, it was no big deal. There were many more I could tell, but I know the guys that saw him day in and day out could tell them better. He was my rock and my protector. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him. Obviously, 317 has become an attack squadron with the addition of the Apaches. I will always think of 317 as a 58 squadron, but change is inevitable. Apache pilots, you have some big shoes to fill. Until you've spray painted the brigade rock with Cav colors, you truly have not embraced the cavalry and all the craziness that comes with it. At this time, I want to thank a few people. First, Colonel Lamb, because without him, this would not have happened. I appreciate the honesty and frankness about everything. Thank you for not forgetting the predecessor and for honoring a man you never met but thought was worthy. I know James would truly be humbled. Major Kelly and Captain Bailey, thank you for all the time and effort. I know someone has to do the legwork. A lot of times in life it's overlooked, but I noticed. Thank you for what I'm sure were long hours added on top of getting ready for NTC. There's an organization for fallen families we participate in. One of the first things they said was your address book will change after this kind of death. It's true because mine did. For all the guys that only knew James and not me before he died, thank you for not being afraid and adding me to yours. Many names dropped from mine, but I gained many more brothers and sisters from his military family. For those of you here that have never met me or were too afraid because you didn't know what to say, you don't have to say anything. I still have a hug waiting for you. Each of you carry a piece of him, and I'd love to see that glimpse of my James. Lastly, I want to thank our boys, Bubba and Shane. I know Dad was gone a lot over the years and missed many important things, but never forget he loved you. Every time you are missing Dad, look in the mirror and you will find him. You both are the best to him, and I know he's very proud of you. You two are my reasons for continuing this crazy journey called life, and I can't wait to see everything you will accomplish down the road. Just remember, if anyone ever comes up, smacks you on the ass and says, "Good game," Dad is saying hi.
Special recognition goes to the Army Aviation Association of America for assisting the squadron with today's ceremony. This concludes today's ceremony. Thank you for your attendance at this historic event. Please join the Groves Family and Light Horse Squadron Command Team in a reception located around the corner at the squadron patio. There will also be aviators on standby to take interested personnel to tour the hangar and view the current attack reconnaissance platform, the AH-64 Delta Apache. Out front, Marne Air, Rock of the Marne.